Grab a cocktail with us and welcome to the hot mess that is my life as a single makeup artist living in a college town in Florida. This is Kara's Lipstick Diary. Hey you guys, we are back for another episode. Have you hit that subscribe button? I mean, you know you want to, right? Because we break these episodes into two parts and you might miss out on the second half if you don't hit subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. All right, so I am super excited. Our friend Adrienne from the podcast Midlife Cravings is zooming back in for another conversation. Today we're going to talk about being sexually independent women and the weird stigmas and other strange things that society thinks about that and the odd instances we have had being sexually independent women and how that just doesn't seem to be something people are okay with or comfortable with or how one-dimensional they make it. So both of us love high noon. She and I both think they're fantastic. So I figured what better than to have high noons on this episode, especially since she is in a different state and it'll be easiest for us to both share the same drink while, you know, in totally different places. So super easy again. You know, how do you make a high noon? You literally just like open the can and then, you know, you can either drink it like this or be fancy and pour it in a glass. You know, super exciting like that, but it's me. So of course we're gonna add a little bit of glitter to this because that makes everything better. All right, you guys, sit back, hit that subscribe button, and let's talk about being sexually independent women. Oh my gosh, Adrienne, I am so excited to have you back on the show. Thank you for coming back on.
I'm so excited to be here, and it's been amazing since I've met you now.
I know, we actually met, like for reals, not just like talking on, you know, messengers. We actually met in person, you guys. We met at Universal Studios and got to hang out, and it was fantastic. We had a good time.
It was so good to meet you.
It was amazing meeting you because, like, I feel like we're friends, but we had never actually like met before.
I know. Yeah,
but now we've met in person. So we were talking. She and I were talking about, you know, when you are an independent woman and you are sex positive, you get there's like weird stigmas attached to it and weird hurdles in life that we have to sort of deal with. And we're like, let's fucking talk about that shit. Like, let's discuss this and like have a conversation. So that's what we're going to do. And by the way, y'all, this is my 5th episode we have filmed today and we have been drinking a lot. So if I have a Southern twang, just roll with it. It's totally normal. This comes out when I'm drinking. I apologize now. So one of the things we talked about was the fact that like, for some reason, men think we're only one-dimensional. Like you are either the person you fuck and have like kinky great sex with, or you're like the housewife that you can't have kinky sex with, but you can't be like both of those things. Like why? I don't understand. You face this too, correct? Where it's like they talk to you about like, oh, I can't do this with a wife, but I can do it with like, so I don't get it. Why can't we be multidimensional?
I don't know. That's an interesting question for me. And I also feel like I've played both of those roles in my life before.
Right, because you've been the wife.
And yeah, and I suppressed my sexual appetite and who I was sexually. But that was mostly because societal pressures and societal norms, I feel like.
Well, I think that's what a lot of it goes back to.
Yeah. I still get that. I lost many friends since my, sex positive podcast came out.
Yeah.
There's definitely women that will not hang out with me because they think I want to fuck their husbands or whatever.
Right. And I'm sorry.
That's tough.
That's not being sex positive and liking sex does not mean that I want to fuck every man that walks by. It doesn't.
I know I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, I relate to you so much because it's like, with gay men and some guys are like, oh, and it's just not that way at all.
No,
Don't flatter yourself.
It's really, really not. Well, and that's one of the things, like as you know, I've started an OnlyFans page and I love
how's that going?
Oh, I fucking love it, girl. Like I am so fucking into doing OnlyFans. Like it really satisfies my exhibitionist kink really well. But like, I literally had a dude on there who's married, by the way, who I know in person, proceed to, because I was on OnlyFans, proposition me and be like, well, I mean, you can invite me to a hotel room. Like, I'll go with you. And I'm like, but I don't have any interest in you. Like, just because you're paying to look at my tits doesn't mean that I want to fuck you. And it's like this weird, like, he doesn't get it. And a lot of men don't seem to get that. Y'all, just because we're sex positive doesn't mean we want to fuck everyone. Like, that's not how that works. Like, and I'm sure you face the same thing, especially because you're very much involved in the lifestyle. Like, is it just assumed that you want to fuck everyone?
I was just going to say, I love fucking husbands, but only when their wife is in the room.
Right, exactly. When there's approval.
So, yeah, I'm a big fan of fucking other people's husbands.
But when the wife is there.
right. Or she's consenting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, consenting is a huge thing. But yeah, I mean, it's not like I want to walk down the street and I want to bang every man that walks by. That's like not at all my thing. Like, I
think it goes both ways. I think it goes both ways too.
Yeah.
It's just people. I wish people in general just more open.
Yeah.
And I think people like us were breaking through and, making it a norm and speaking about it, saying it loud, saying it proud, and hopefully changing a few minds along the way. But it's really hard to break those norms.
Yeah. Well, and I think so much of it goes back to those societal norms and societal expectations and the puritanical standings, and it's very hard. Like, we as women aren't supposed to like sex. We're not supposed to like kinky sex. We're not supposed to like, any of this stuff. And yet, like, we're human. So like we do. And I think it like freaks people out.
Yeah, but I want to make it, because I love men.
I do too.
I'm not saying it's just men,
no.
But because I will be honest, I think a lot, I have mom hate groups about me. I think it's women too. It's just, I think we're not, we're breaking through. We're not the norm. And it makes some people uncomfortable. I think too, it brings out a lot of insecurities. I think there's a lot of sexless marriages out there, especially in our age.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough. And so what I try to do is just encourage people, just be open.
Yeah.
To just start with just being open and just listen, and understand, like, yes, I am a slut, but I'm an ethical slut. And there's a big difference.
Yeah. There's a huge difference. And, I think there's such a negative connotation around the idea of slut. And yet I'm like, no, I'm a sexually liberated woman. Like, but that's not a negative thing. I mean, I do think a lot of women are intimidated by that because we're told we're not supposed to be. And there is that negative connotation and you're slut shamed. And I'm like, no, there's no shame in it, y'all. Like, just because men want to give me orgasms, like, that ain't a problem. That's a good thing, y'all. That's a fantastic thing.
It's tough, I think, especially just because we're so confident in speaking about it. It just goes against all of the norms. And that's, we're whenever somebody's swimming the other way, it's
hard, and I it's funny for me because I went from being a sex ed teacher. So like I had to talk about sex. Like I actually taught sex ed to underserved youth through improv theater. Totally normal. Totally a normal job. Not weird at all. Now, don't get me wrong. We taught like a lot of fucking misinformation. Lots of it. Had no idea at the time that I was teaching misinformation, but I think that opened me up to being comfortable talking about it. Then also working in theater, it's theater people. Theater people are horny. That's just the way they are, and we're all exhibitionists. So I think I grew up, or I, came of age as a young adult where like I was forced to talk about sex because it was part of my job. It was a normal thing. So I just always found it normal. And I always found it so weird that people didn't talk about it. It was like mind boggling to me that people are so closed off about talking about sex.
Yeah, I think it just makes some people uncomfortable. Yeah. And for me, I had an opposite situation and experience. I was like I said, I suppressed my sexual appetite just because I would get shamed for it. Yeah. And it was, get married, have babies, live happily ever after. And it's funny, especially I feel like during this phase of life, the universe will not let you forget who you are. And you can't hide it anymore. Yeah. And you also give less fucks,
Yeah. Ain't that the truth?
I think I've shared my buckets of fucks theory with you.
Yeah.
In your 20s, they're really heavy and you're weighed down by them.
Yes.
In your 30s, you let a bunch go and you're moving your arms now. Then by your 40s,
you ain't got no fucks.
Pinky.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because like I may have taught that stuff and I may have openly talked about it, but at the same time, I was very repressed. My mother always said the one thing she didn't want was a female Scorpio because we were too sexual. And I was a female Scorpio. So like I thought that like, oh my God, this like I need to like push this down. And I remember when I was like 14, I went to her and I said, I wanted to pose for Playboy, and like, she lost her shit. So like, I was like, oh my God, this is bad. I need to repress this. I mean, hell, I didn't even kiss a boy till I was 20. Like, I was so like terrified of it all because like, that's how I'd been taught. But then, you know, I suddenly had no fucks to give. And I realized like, sex is great. Sex is pretty freaking fantastic. Sorry, I hate earpieces, you guys. This thing does not want to stay in my ear. But yeah, I mean, I think when you hit your 40s, you suddenly have no fucks to give. You also come into your sexual sort of awakening as a woman in your 40s, which is fan-fucking-tastic, you guys.
Yeah, you just can't deny it anymore.
No, you know, you can't deny it. And I don't know about you, but I've gone through a lot of therapy also that has touched on this stuff, and that's helped a lot. But, you know, it is one of those things where it does fascinate me, just the societal response to being open about sexuality, sex, all of that.
It's tough. It's not easy being out here. I think I've shared with you some of the situations that have happened to me recently. Like my brother-in-law was in a fantasy football league and the chat started, oh, you know, your sister's a slut. Like that happened. My 60-year-old aunt called my father on Thanksgiving and was like, you know, do you know how Adrienne lives her life? And, you know, it's another thing that's really tough for me is that if I'm seen with anyone, I'm automatically fucking them.
Correct.
And so, you know, that impacts a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
I'm out with a friend and then people are like, oh, she's fucking him. And it just rumors start. And it's really unfortunate that it's that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've had multiple men for business meetings be like, I wasn't sure if I could meet with you in public and be seen. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I don't even understand this. And then it was like, oh, fuck, that's what you're talking about. Like, it didn't even cross my mind because it seems so just bizarre to me. You know, and the attachments to people associating with you also. I literally had a friend who came on this show. She's a dear friend of mine. Literally, she's in a church and she was in leadership in her church. The church literally had an intervention with her for being friends with me and appearing on my show, and removed her from her leadership position for 3 months and put her in new training because they were so concerned about her associating with me.
Wow.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
are you
tough.
fucking kidding me? Like, what? But, you know, I'm sure some man having an affair with one of the other women in the church, like, I'm sure he didn't get in any trouble. But, like, you know, come on my show and hang out with me and get kicked out of fucking leadership. Like, fuck, are you kidding? So yeah, there's this weird stigma, even for people who associate with us who aren't doing, you know, whatever the hell we're doing, still get tagged with it.
Yeah. And I think another negative connotation that I really don't like is people will say, oh, you're dirty, you're gross or whatever. And it's like, I practice extreme, you know, safe sex.
Yeah.
When's the last time you got tested?
Well,
you know
and
I mean?
that's a huge thing. And like, even like the thing I also like with that whole stigma around STDs and all of that, you have the issue that you can literally have sex one time with one person and something can happen.
Kara, there is no such thing as consequence-free sex.
Correct.
I preach that on my show.
Yes.
I was diagnosed with HPV last fall. I had the LEAP procedure to remove it. I ended up getting the HPV vaccine. I didn't know it was for people of the age of 26. So
right, because that's what they all told us back in the day. Yeah.
Right. And men can get the shot, which is amazing.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, like people were like, oh my God, you're disgusting. And by the way, if you've had sex with more than one person, you've had HPV in your life.
You have. Well,
I mean, it's unbelievable.
I have one friend I have two friends who they found out their husbands were cheating on them because they got STDs.
My gynecologist actually came on my show and I'm friends with her. And she said, the number one conversation I have every single day is telling a married woman, sorry, you have syphilis, or sorry, you have, you know, HPV and you're packing back abnormal. But really it's just about being proactive and like understanding the risks and being smart. And I think that's one thing that I really just dislike is that it's like, I mean, I was actually doing an Instagram live the other day and someone was like, I can't imagine all the diseases you have. And I was like, Oh, grow up.
Grow the fuck up. Well, I mean, it's this constant like shaming of some sort. I mean, I've had people who have come up to me and been like, wait, you haven't ever had an abortion? No, like just because I've had a lot of sex and I've never been pregnant doesn't mean automatically that I'm having like 20 abortions. Like, no, I've never been pregnant. I've used safe sex. You know, like it could have still happened. I've been very fortunate. But it's just this automatic assumption that like, if you have sex, X, Y, and Z. And again, both of those things can happen from having sex one time with one person. What happened? Why did we stop the episode? Well, you know how it goes now. Season 3, we're releasing in 2 parts. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and find out when the next episode is dropping. It should be like, oh yeah, in a week. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and I'll see you in a week.